What's good, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Comic Sessions. I'm your host, Sean Thompson, and this week, I'm going to change things up a little bit on the new comic front. We're going to have another big topic. This time we're doing digital comics versus physical media. So actual, books versus reading stuff on your iPad or computer. And then we're going to talk about what's new next week. As for housekeeping stuff, I am going to be taking part in Extra Life, so I'm going to be doing a 24-hour stream on November the 2nd. So you guys can tune in to twitch.tv/Snowy'sMonster to check that out. It should be really fun. Chris is probably going to join me for some of that. We're going to play some League of Legends, maybe some Goose Game, whole bunch of different games to fill up 24 hours. But I think that's everything, so why don't we get right into what's new this week? And in that way, I can kind of move a little quicker. We can get onto the big topic, maybe spend a little longer on that. And yeah, so the three comics I want to talk about this week, there's actually a bonus one I'm just kind of going to mention at the end. But yeah, we'll throw that in at the end. We'll get to it. But the three comics I want to talk about that were my favorites of the week are King Thor number 2, Flash number 81, and Detective Comics number 1014. God damn, that's a big number. We might as well start with the two DC comics, and then we'll talk about King Thor after. So we'll start with Detective Comics number 1014. And this is obviously following up Detective Comics 1013, because duh. And what happened right at the end of that issue was Freeze had woken up Nora from cryogenic stasis, which is really, that's a big revelation. That's his whole motivation. So in this, it kind of opens with them, her kind of first waking up and being like, what's going on? I didn't want this. I didn't want you to do this. I wanted to fight the cancer on my own and stuff like that. So she's a little upset with him, and he's putting the glass jar-shaped helmet on her head. She's really uncomfortable with it. She's crying. He's like, no, you have to do this for now. The lab thing we're in right now isn't stable at absolute zero, and you have to keep your body temperature low still currently. I've gotten past that now because I've been freeze for so long. I figured out a way past it, but right now you're in the earliest stages of this, so you have to wear this for now. They kind of have a heart-to-heart. They kiss. They're talking about... Freeze kind of dumps on her, like, she's like, everything I've missed, everything I've been through, and then he's like, everything you've been through, here are all the things I've been through. Kind of a shitty move on Freeze's part, in my opinion, but that's how it goes. Then we flip over to Batman talking to Alfred. They're kind of investigating what Freeze was doing to the women he was kidnapping before he woke up Nora. It's kind of obvious that he was trying to wake up Nora now to us, but that is irony. So they're just kind of doing an investigation. Bruce goes, well, we have to go to Lucius Fox. He's got stuff that would put Freeze's lab to shame. We'll talk to him and see what's going on. So he goes over and he's talking to Lucius for a little bit. And then Freeze and Nora bust in the door. They're looking for some tech and a serum that Wayne Tech had kept. Bruce and Nora talk a little bit. Bruce is like, you're alive? You're awake? What's going on? And she's like, I have no ill will with you. I always remembered your kindness and this and that. And Bruce and Freeze start kind of having almost a back and forth of Freeze being like, you would do the same, I know, for your parents and stuff like that. If you could bring them back or could do something to save them. Bruce Wayne is like, I know for a fact that if it meant killing people or harming innocents, I wouldn't do it. And we get a little bit of irony there because we know that Bruce is literally telling the truth. He's had the opportunity and stuff like that before to potentially have changed things, especially with Flash's powers and stuff like that. He's literally asked Flash to take him back and change some stuff before. But yeah, they steal the serum thing that they're there for, Freeze and Nora, and then they run off, and we see the next kind of panel is Nora, and her skin is turned blue, just like Freeze's, and she doesn't need an apparatus to live anymore, and she's dancing on the ballet, and it looks very nice, and we kind of get this sense that maybe they're going to have a happy ending. And then the next panel, it turns out they froze everybody in the fucking theater, killing them all, theoretically. And so they're just straight up doing evil shit now, because apparently Nora is just evil after waking up, maybe. So they walk out of the theater after she's done dancing and stuff like that, and they introduce them as the new Mr. and Mrs. Freeze. She's got a cool looking suit just like Mr. Freeze's, and they're doing kind of bad guy things, and it ends with them seeing the symbol that that Lex Luthor has put in the sky, saying that Doom always wins or whatever. But that was Detective Comics number 1014. And the reason I liked it so much was it adds... I wasn't entirely sure what was going to happen when Nora woke up. I wasn't sure if Freeze was going to try... Initially, my initial thoughts were she would entirely reject him because he has turned into this really bad villain. And I like that they kind of didn't go with the obvious play there. They kind of spun it a little different way. And they introduced a new kind of villain in Mrs. Freeze. And it's tying into the whole Year of the Villain stuff, which is really, really cool. I love that the entire line is doing that, and it's all tying together. And I think all of the issues that are coming out either this week or last have that big symbol in the sky that Lex Luthor has put up there to kind of tie everything together, which is really, really cool. So that was Detective Comics number 1014. Next, we're going to talk about Flash number 81. We'll get those two DC books right out of the way. And this one picks up with Hunter Zolomon fighting Black Flash, the embodiment of death for speedsters. So basically, Hunter has stolen a bunch of the other forces, and he's trying to take down Death because he wants to protect the Flash family is kind of his motivation. So it starts off with this big kind of fight scene between Hunter and the Black Flash for a while. And then we get little introductions of, Barry's kind of talking throughout it, so we see his thought bubbles and stuff like that. But then we also find out that the Forever Force that Hunter has kind of trapped them in allows Barry and everybody to kind of see the future, the past, everything kind of thing. And Hunter gets shown by Barry that it wasn't just the clown that the clown didn't have a gun. Someone gave him the Thon. Thawne gave the clown the gun that killed Hunter's mentor, and that kind of sent him on this kind of evil path and stuff like that. So then Hunter is kind of like, oh, it was Thawne who did this as well. Well, what the fuck? And then Black Flash keeps coming for them. They're like, we have to run. We have to fix the force barrier. That way they can stop the new forces from infecting the Speed Force more, and that should hopefully stop the Black Flash, because it's basically there to protect the Speed Force, more or less. Which is an interesting way to go with the embodiment of death. But then we get kind of Barry pleading with Hunter to just work together. We can fix this. It'll all be okay. You don't have to be a villain anymore. We can move forward. Right? Then we cut over to Avery and Wally, and they're still checking in on the rogues that are over there. Some bad shit goes down over there, just really quickly. Then we snap right back to Hunter, and he's like, I have to sacrifice myself. It's the only way. This is what Flashes do, sacrifice themselves to save the day. And he jumps right into the barrier because he has all the other forces in him as well. And he does it. He fixes the force barrier, which is really cool. But Black Flash is very much not happy about it. He starts freaking out and he attacks Barry. Then there's some stuff that's potentially wrong with the Speed Force and with the future and the past, and everything's just not quite right anymore because of all this. And then what's his name? Steadfast? But yeah, then Steadfast is over with Iris, and she's kind of looking after him. She's like, what's going on? Where's the Flash? And then he says, Iris, look. And they look up into the sky, and there's the big symbol. And everything is falling, and you get Steadfast saying, this is the end of everything. Wally and Avery pop in out of nowhere, and they were like, we were fighting them. Iris is like, fighting who? And then we get all the rogues that are like crazy powered up with the big Doom rising symbol in the back, which I assume is Lex Luthor's big symbol thing. And then just, it's a really big, splashy, cool page. But yeah, I really dug it. I keep saying that. I've got to find a different thing to say. But it was a really cool issue. Mostly because it kind of redeemed Hunter Zolomon a little bit, which I liked. It was a lot of setup. And again, it was a big tie-in. Like all of DC seems to be doing the big tie-in thing right now, which is really cool. It's unfortunate if you want to get all of the Year of the Villain stuff, because you will be spending quite a pretty penny. But it's still really cool when a publisher will do something across all of their titles that affects everything. So I really dig stuff like that, and I love the Flash. He's always one of my favorite heroes. Is that hopeful, cheerful guy. Again, Wally's better than Barry, but that's a personal opinion, I guess. I suppose. The last issue I want to talk about in any kind of depth for this week is King Thor #2. Again, I loved Jason Aaron's run on Thor. I thought it was awesome. Thor, God of Thunder was super, super good, and this is pretty much a direct sequel to that. I love Old Man Thor so much, too. He's so badass, one-armed, one eye, powerful as all hell. It's so cool. But the last issue for this was it feels like so long ago, but it was probably just a month. But we pick up right where we left off with Gore being back, Gore the God Butcher. Real scary dude. If you're unfamiliar with Gore, I suggest going back and reading Thor God of Thunder, specifically the first 2 volumes, because that's where he's in it the most. He does a lot of bad shit. And in this, he is beating the crap out of Thor. He kind of gets him crucified? Almost. But it basically revealed that Loki brought him back. He was always in the Necro Sword. And when Loki was using that to try and kill Thor, he was pouring, I guess, energy in to kind of bring Gore back as well. And Gore's like, I know why you've done this, because you could never bring yourself to kill your brother. And that's kind of not true, but we'll find out about that a little bit more later. But then he captures Loki too, because he already beat the shit out of him too. They're both crucified up there. And he says to Thor, inside your brother is just a frightened child. Tell me, what are you on the inside, God of Thunder? Shall we see? And Thor goes, aye. And then he sends a big-ass lightning bolt straight through Gore, sending him into orbit. And then he kind of pleads with Loki that we can take him together, and if you don't, I will come back and I will beat the shit out of you drenched in God Butcher blood. Which is it's an awesome thing to say. Then he calls Mjolnir back from the sun that was entrenched in the Necro Sword energy stuff, and he pulls it back. And he also pulls back a sword of some kind. Then we get Gore pulling all of the Necro Sword back. So they're both kind of like powering up from different sides, trying to get all ready. And then Gore has this big-ass sword, which is real scary. This one's more like, it's really action-y, so it's hard to be like, there are all these story beats. It's one you kind of have to read. But after Gore kind of introduces his big sword, we cut to the Girls of Thunder, which are Thor's granddaughters. and they're on a quest to find something. They said, do you remember how this entire saga began? And it's with a prayer. And it came from here. Then we cut back to Loki, who is getting prayed to by some random human, which is a little weird. Then cut back to Thor and Gore fighting in space and stuff, and just having some big kind of arguments, and Gore really doing a number on Thor. Then Loki comes out of nowhere, rope around the back of Gore's head, or rope around Gore's neck, pulls him back, and the two of them start beating up Gore a little bit, but not before Gore cuts off Loki's arm and stabs him through the eyes. So now Loki has one arm and is blind in both eyes, and Thor only has one arm and is blind in one eye. So Thor is winning. Then Thor smacks him in the face for hitting his brother, or smacks Gore in the face for doing all that to Loki. They have a little bit more of an argument, and Gore comes out of nowhere and entraps them in the Necro Sword. And it's just like, gods may walk on water, but Gore is the sea. And the sea is tired of being tread upon. You have my permission to drown now, gods of Asgard. And he's drowning them in the blackness of the Necro Sword. And the two, Loki and Thor kind of have a moment. Thor's like, I lied, mother never lost hope in you. And then he apologizes to his dead mom. And then we lose, or they drew it so that everything looks like it's fading and fading and fading more and more to black. And the last panel is, or the last two bubbles are behold the dying of the light. And that's it. So it seems like Thor and Loki are dead, but they are almost definitely not, because there's more issues. And I'm very, very certain that Thor is going to be in more of them. Don't know about Loki, but it's titled King Thor. I can't imagine them killing him off in issue 2. But that being said, this was probably my favorite issue of the week. I love the art on all of it. It has the same look as Thor God of Thunder. It's beautiful. I'm a big fan of a kind of mythology story, and that's what this is. It ties back something from years ago, which is I love seeing in comics. I love seeing a story get tied together years after you thought it was finished, because in Thor God of Thunder, Thor does kill Gore. He gets rid of him. He throws an entire planet into a black hole to get rid of him. But they've found a way that kind of makes sense to bring him back and kind of finish out this chapter and maybe finish Thor for the end of it's a really cool book. If you're not reading King Thor, it's just a mini series, so I would say pick it up. It's really, really good. And yeah, that was King Thor number 2. Now, the last thing I did want to talk about is Batman Beyond number 37, because they did my boy Terry McGinnis dirty, just like they did Dick Grayson dirty. Why they gotta give fucking Batman's proteges amnesia and then immediately replace them? It's such a tropey, cliche, bad way to get rid of someone, in my opinion. I'm all for Batwoman Beyond, because it's a really cool thing they could do there, especially if they go down the kind of Kane kind of way where she is a little more militaristic. She is a little, she's more disciplined, stuff like that. It would be a really interesting way to do it. I don't like that they gave Terry amnesia. That just sounds like bad daytime TV to me. But it was a good issue all in all. And it mirrors Mask of the Phantasm a little bit, where they're trying to figure out not Mask of the Phantasm. Which one is that? Kind of mirrors Batman Mystery of the Batwoman, which was a cool little book or episode and everything like that, or mini movie, whatever. So I dug that, but again, I just don't like the whole let's give a character amnesia and then replace them thing. It seems a little too easy, and again, I would have liked to see Terry still be Batman during it, but I'm sure they're going somewhere cool with it, and I'm excited to find out where. I'm along for the ride. But that's everything that's new this week. I guess we'll get into the big topic next. All right, so for this week's big topic, I brought Kristen back.
Hey guys.
So we're going to talk about digital versus physical comics, books, and other, just because I feel like it's a very relevant thing, especially with everything moving more and more towards digital. I mean, video games, for example, are moving way away from physical media, so might as well talk about comics. I know tons of people who read their comics digitally.
Absolutely, yeah.
Where do you fall on? What do you prefer to read?
Okay, I will forever be a physical book person.
Yeah, me too.
I need to feel it and touch it and physically flip the pages of the books I'm reading.
There's something so much more satisfying, I find, about actually flipping pages.
Absolutely. Like, for me, it's no contest. It's no question whether... I don't know. I personally just will always have to have the physical book in my hands while reading it. But I will say, I think it's incredible the advancements that we've made and I think having digital literature out there allows it to become available to so many more people.
Oh, for sure.
And
it's so much easier to get your hands on a digital copy of something.
Yeah,
but
100%.
I'll come back to that because I do have an actual point about like specifically comics being digital.
Yes.
And why that kind of devalues them, I find.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm with you. I need to hold things in my hand to read them. I've had digital textbooks for school and stuff like that, and I hated them.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. Maybe it's just the fact that I'm on a screen, so I get a headache easier, and I feel like I don't absorb the information as much if I'm reading it online. It could all be in my head. That's totally a possibility. But for me, it's like, as lame as it sounds, like smelling the pages, like that whole idea of the nostalgia that comes from you pick up a book and you're like, oh, I remember where I was sitting the first time I read this, and I remember the tea I was holding in my hand and this and that. Well, and I don't know.
I will say having things digitally does make it a lot easier, especially for basically what I'm doing. Like, I get them. I buy all my comics physically still, but if I were to get them digitally, I'd get them pretty much first thing in the morning on Wednesday, right? So I could theoretically have everything read by Wednesday afternoon and be filming way quicker.
Yeah,
right? It is very, very convenient if you want everything immediately. You want to stay on top of things. You want to make sure you can find everything. And
it can also be a bit more affordable too.
Yeah, things tend to go way on sale. For the
masses. Yeah. I want to go back to your comment on, especially when it comes to comic books and digital versus physical, the whole like valuation.
Oh yeah, that was going to be my point about that, is that comics gain value because either something epic happens in a specific issue, like the death of Superman, or the introduction of a new character, stuff like that, or because they are in limited quantities, right? Because they're rare and hard to find.
Yeah.
When you put everything out digitally, you lose that sense of rarity.
Absolutely.
And then the work isn't devalued necessarily because the artists and the writers still worked incredibly hard and it still looks beautiful on digital. But you lose that sense of collector spirit to it a little bit, right? Which is basically, it's a lot of what comics are about, right? Like that sense of, I have every single Batman Eternal.
Totally.
Or whatever, right? Like I have all these issues.
Yeah.
Right? That's a collection. But when it's digital, you just have everything downloaded.
Yeah.
Right? There's no resale. Well, there's no potential for it to increase in value.
Absolutely.
There's nothing like that. It's just, you have a file.
Well, like, for example, being more of like an art person versus comic book person, it's the exact same issues and like debates and things that have been going on basically since the digital era began, where, okay, now we take something like this 18th century painting this masterpiece that has this incredible value behind it. And now we bring in the digital world. We can Google Leonardo da Vinci's anything and you can see these replicas of it online, and you see the same piece. You can see the Mona Lisa sitting in your Toronto apartment rather than getting on a plane, flying all the way across to Europe and seeing it in person. Where do you draw the line on the valuation there? When does it become, when does it lose its value?
Well, and the other thing is, the second something's digital, it's crazy easy to torrent.
Absolutely.
And I can get it for free.
Yeah.
Basically, especially with comics, you can get whatever issue you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
If you aren't afraid of spyware and stuff like that, you can quickly Google whatever issue.
Yeah.
And be able to read it online for free.
Definitely.
Which takes money away from artists and publishers and stuff like that. It's not good for the industry in that sense. I mean, I'm not saying digital comics are bad for the industry.
No.
I'm just saying that there are certain things that could be.
Well, like most things in the current world, it has its pros and its cons, right?
Sure.
There's always going to be both sides of the coin to argue, where some people may only want to read a book or on their Kindle or only ever...
I will say I do like the, what was it I got my dad? It was like an Amazon Fire or a Kindle or something like that.
Yeah.
But it has a paper look to the screen.
Yeah.
I do like that because it's a little softer on your eyes and stuff like that.
Well, and I think there's definitely something to be said too for these tech companies that are designing these products, and they are going above and beyond to try and recreate that feel where you swipe on the screen and it makes the sound of a page flipping,
and
because they understand
animation.
they made that connection that the consumers, that's what they want, right?
Yeah.
Like, we have that attachment to the physical object. I think bringing it back to comic books and graphic novels, anything like that, that genre is known and like throughout history as a collection, like a collector's item, right? Like, beyond the literature, beyond the artwork, all of that combined, it's something that people want to not just consume as a regular consumer item. People want it to have throughout time. You know, they want something to show for it.
Man, I knew people when I was working at the comic book store that would come in and were like, no, I'm basically buying all these to leave to my kid.
Yeah, exactly.
There was one dude, he wasn't my favorite dude. I'm going to be completely honest. I won't lie to you. I did not like this guy.
Don't say names. I'm not gonna name names. Be shady, but
this guy.
Yeah.
But part of why I didn't like him is because he was like,
he'd swoop in.
No, it wasn't even that.
Oh.
It was, he literally said one day, I don't even read these. I'm just buying them to give to my kid for a college fund. It was like, just give your kid a college fund. Guarantee him some money. This isn't the right way to go about this. Because he was buying every single issue of The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And like, some of those are worth a pretty penny and everything like that. Like Walking Dead issue number 1, first printing, is not a cheap comic.
Yeah.
But that's not a kid's college fund. It's just not.
Yeah.
Especially in today's market, you don't get those, at least we haven't seen it yet, the Amazing Fantasy 27, which is the first appearance of Spider-Man. Or 27? 14? Detective Comics 27? Whatever.
you know what he's talking about.
You don't get the first appearance of Spider-Man anymore, really. It seems like, at least.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see later on, but
and
you don't get
kind
those
of like
ultra rare, because now those are shipped in such mass quantities and so many people swoop in whenever a new character. I know people who buy 3 copies of something whenever a new character is introduced, just in case the character becomes famous.
So that they can keep one and then they can
keep
sell
one, read one, sell one.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And it's fine to do and stuff like that, but we haven't seen, because people do that, you don't get the scarcity of things.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't see things going for quite as expensive unless it's a special variant or a misprint or a...
Yeah.
Right? And with digital, you get even further away from that because, again, then there's no scarcity. Everybody has access to it very, very easily.
And then there's also the argument to be made for, oh, well, we want these things to be immortalized. We want them to be around forever. We want them to last. However, who are we to say that this tech is going to exist 100 years in the future, 200 years in the future? It could turn out to be safer having the physical item in your grasp versus having it stored online where it could crash, it could be deleted,
we're already seeing this with video games. I'm just going to bring it back to video games again. But we're already seeing this a little bit with video games because I know a lot of people don't think mobile games are real gamer games.
Yeah. Whatever,
that's your opinion.
Yeah.
But a lot of mobile games come and then are deleted. And we don't know where they're... One of them... It's not a mobile game. It's like they
vanish. It's like, where is their legacy?
Yeah, a super famous game was Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
Can't find copies of Scott Pilgrim anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that was a physical one that went kind of missing. But with digital games, when they go missing, there's nothing.
You can't...
There's no
just
history
get that back. Yeah.
Right? So there's charities and stuff that are set up now specifically to the preservation of gaming history.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we move too quickly towards an all digital comic reading experience, something very similar could happen, right? Where, say tomorrow we moved all digital, right? And then someone put out a comic, right? Someone put out something like X-Men Gold #1. There's a huge controversy around that when it came out because the artist snuck in some anti-Semitic, anti-Christian things.
I remember that.
It was a big deal. And Marvel acted quickly, as they should have, and stopped that print run. Well, they didn't stop it. It was already out. But they were like, all right, we're editing this for the second printing. It won't have these things in it. And the graphic novel won't have these things in it. On the surface, that looks like a super good thing, right? Like, no hate speech in comics is good. Exactly.
I mean, not that I agree with the hate that was there, but...
That should have been...
But also...
But then you lose the say...
It can be an incredible educational talking point, though. Like, that can be used as an example. Whereas, if it was all digital... and you were to delete that and cover up all traces that existed, then where do you learn from that? Where do you...
50 years from now, nobody would know, except for the people who read it when it came out, and they wouldn't have proof anymore.
And then where do you draw the line with that? Like, maybe this is me being paranoid, but like, who is making those decisions as to what's acceptable and what gets deleted, what stays forever?
And that was why I was making the point of, like, I know... Again, X-Men Gold #1 should have been changed, and they did change it. That was good on them, and I agree with what they chose to do. But you can see that going down a road that now Marvel polices anything they don't see as acceptable.
Yeah.
And now you have a very linear, very specific thing, and it's a less creative field because of it.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah, it's an interesting topic there. On the other hand, though, digital is really great when it comes to new readers.
Yeah.
Apps like Comixology allow people to get huge bundles of comics for relatively cheap and read them instantly.
Well, and also, like, if, let's say, you are an avid collector and you want to have your comic in pristine condition, but then your kid wants to read it. Okay, I'll show you. You can read this digital version and not ruin it. Then you can preserve the physical book itself.
Exactly.
There's so many different sides to it, you know?
Well, again,
like,
just
there's
going back
so
to
many different...
the new reader thing.
Yeah.
It does make it so easy.
100%.
Because Comixology has huge sales all the time, right? Where they'll put on, like, the first run of Spider-Man for, like, 50 cents an issue.
Yeah.
Right? It's real good for somebody jumping into comics who wants to read some of that old stuff.
Wants to start from the beginning and doesn't know how to go back that far, right?
Or can't find something.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Instead of having to wait and order and try and track down an issue or whatever.
And then spend like $1,000 to get it because it's so rare and
because
collectors
it's a first
have
edition or it's a first printing and it's this and it's that. Right? This way you just go 99 cents, done. Right? Mm-hmm. It is good for stuff like that. No argument there. But again,
then do you
that
really
hurts local businesses potentially. I'm just gonna
running out of time.
But yeah, that hurts local businesses potentially because it's the Amazon thing,
mm-hmm.
right? I can get this super cheap online, so why would I bother?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will always bother because I love my local comic book stores.
Mm-hmm.
I love the people there. It's a great atmosphere. It's a very big sense of community.
Yeah.
But if someone's just starting out, they start digitally.
Yeah.
There's no motivation for them to go into a comic book store unless they feel the need to.
Yeah.
Right? So...
And especially because, at least for our generation and basically a lot of the working class today, commuting in that on-the-go lifestyle, fast-paced, that is becoming a norm or is a norm for a lot of people already. So it's like, okay, am I going to lug all these things around everywhere with me? Right. Or do I want to sit on the train for my hour commute to the city
iPad,
and just scroll? You know?
Yeah.
It's...
Or my phone. I can read my comics on my phone.
Yes.
Like...
Yeah.
I will say, if you're going to read comics digitally, get an iPad or a tablet that's a little bit bigger, a little closer to comic size, because then you can actually see everything better.
Yeah.
But that's my personal opinion. If you want to read your comics on your phone, go ahead. Philistine.
Wow.
I know, I have very strong opinions.
That was dramatic.
I know. But yeah, I will always be physical in this respect.
Absolutely, me too.
With video games, I'm okay to move more towards digital. I don't mind buying digital games and stuff like that. I do like having the physical copies because they get trade-in value and stuff like that. But with something like that, it's a little different, I find.
Yeah.
Because it is video games at least are inherently a digital medium.
Yes.
Whereas comic books, throughout history at least, have been physical. Yeah. So it's a very, very big change. And I know maybe I'm old school and I'm afraid of change like everybody else.
I know, I was just thinking that too, like, am I old now? Because I'm so set in my way. Like, for me, there is no better feeling in the world than picking up a book and opening it and flipping through the pages. Because for me, it's not just, like, the book. For me, it's a whole experience, right? Yeah. I get cozy, grab my blanket, make a cup of tea, go to my, like, I get in the zone and I, like, leave to a whole different world, you know? And whereas I don't feel that sense of connection, and I don't like why I'm having a brain fart right now. I don't like merge with the world as much. Like, I don't get as... You
don't get as oh fuck, now I can't think of it.
Immersed. That's the word. Wow. You can tell I'm tired that I couldn't think of immersed. But yeah, I don't know. And again, maybe that's me. Maybe this is my primalistic need to collect coming back into play, because historically human beings have always been collectors. Yeah. It's
part of the whole hunter-gatherer thing. Gatherer, collector.
Exactly. There's something that draws us to it, that wants us to have
things.
We want to have things.
Yeah. And I don't know. There's also, like, a large sense of accomplishment when you get through something. Like, say...
You close you're on the last page, you read the last word.
Say you're reading Watchmen, right? That's like an 1.5 inch thick book.
Yeah.
That's a big book.
Yeah.
When you finally get through the end of it, you feel good about it. You're like, I accomplished a thing. When you get through a digital version of Watchmen, your iPad hasn't changed. Yeah. Nothing's different about the situation other than you've gotten through a bunch of pages that they're all digital, so you don't have that sense of...
But it's like...
I'm furthering myself. There's no sense of accomplishment.
It's the same feeling as scrolling through your Instagram feed. You're never gonna you don't reach an end.
You could lose like 3 hours. You're not gonna... Through Instagram.
You just scroll and scroll and scroll because there's no end in sight. Yeah. You know, it just keeps going forever. So it's like essentially the same feeling with the book. You get to the end of your book and you're like, okay, I should keep...
It's not...
I guess there's nothing. You know?
Right?
I don't know.
Yeah, no, totally.
I don't know. I think it's something that I know for me personally. I will always feel this way. I will never like fully become just a digital book reader.
Me neither.
Especially for comics. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm getting really heated on this topic.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good talk.
But a comic is also not just about the written literature. Like, a comic in itself is a work of art. And I think taking something like that and making it digital, at least, again, totally a personal opinion, but you don't really get the proper appreciation for the artist's work. That's just
Devil's
me.
advocate, a lot of the art is done digitally. Anyway.
Yeah, so then it's
right,
like,
so,
is it really any different?
Yeah. I don't know. Do you think it's good or bad? Do you have any, like, opinion that way? I mean, personally, I don't think it's either.
Yeah, I wouldn't say one is, I wouldn't say,
One's
as
not.
much as I will always be an advocate for a physical
Physical is better
book,
than digital. I will say it.
and I will always be on that side. That won't change. I'm also not saying, though, that digital is bad.
No, digital is not bad, but physical is better than digital.
In our opinion.
No. Physical is better than digital. If you have the opportunity to, like, say they were the same price point, right? Always go physical.
Mm-hmm.
Because at least it might appreciate in value. Once you have spent something, at least in my opinion, like, this is just looking at it purely as a money thing.
Yeah.
But it's a better investment in physical than digital.
True. Yes.
In my opinion.
But then, take into account different people with different abilities. For example, people who have issues hearing properly,
Right.
or are
As I
like,
say, I don't know where you're going with hearing, with reading comics, but okay.
no, not hearing. Sorry, that's not what I meant to say. People who are visually impaired.
Yeah.
Yes, there's Braille and other alternatives.
That's
However,
actually a really good point.
an audiobook is a complete.
Well, I'm going to bring up Comixology again because it's like the biggest comic reading app.
Yeah.
But their assisted reader thing, which is for new readers and potentially visually impaired people, would be awesome.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, for a lot of visually impaired people, you're not fully blind. You can still see some amount. And a lot of them, they can read to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, they can see a bit. Not great.
Well,
I mean, that's what I'm saying. A lot of them.
Yeah.
Like, it's not. I'm not saying all blind people can see a bit. That's absolutely not true, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying a lot of visual impairments. Visual impairment doesn't necessarily mean 0%.
Yeah, there's tons of colorblind. Like, so many. There's so many different.
And with a digital comic, they have an assisted reader thing that zooms into each panel and blows it right up so that you can focus on that one panel.
Yeah.
It's really good for new readers because it teaches you the way to go through the blocking, but it would also be really great for people with visual impairments because it blows up that text really big so you don't have to sit there trying to read something teeny tiny on a page right up close to your face. It blows it up for you. You might still need to bring it closer.
Also, one thing that I did like about on Comixology too, I think it was Comixology that you showed me a couple comics on. For me, because I had never read a comic before, I got so confused trying to follow, like, okay, what speech bubble do I read now? Where do I jump? Whereas on the digital comic, you just tap and the screen moves to the next bubble. So I never, I was reading bubbles all out of order, and make fun of me all you want because I know it's probably the simplest thing to just follow.
Left to right, top to bottom.
Yes, exactly. However, it is kind of weird when there's some comics are very sporadic and there will be 3 speech bubbles in one block and it's like, okay, now what? Yeah. So I did like that aspect of it.
No,
how it guides you through it.
I think, again, it's another useful tool.
Yeah.
I don't think it replaces physical.
No. Yeah. Bless you.
Oh, thank you. I don't think it replaces physical, but it is definitely a good supplemental tool, I think. And that's how I would use digital more so, as something to help
Yeah.
More than anything else. And again, another thing just with like being inclusive. Say you were colorblind. Theoretically, digital comics could include a colorblind
You could
setting,
alter, absolutely.
right? Like,
that's a
that's
really
something
good
that could-
idea.
right? And it's something that probably
Do that.
Yeah.
Someone out there.
Unless someone's already if they have.
Unless
let me
it
know in
already
the
exists.
Let me know in the
Yeah.
comments.
That's
comments.
really,
That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
But it's something that could be implemented to
Yeah.
just make something more accessible for everybody. Because why not?
Yeah.
Like, or the descriptive reading thing. Like, it
Yeah.
could read the bubbles for you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's plenty to be said for digital being a great tool.
And I mean, there is a whole, bringing audiobooks into the discussion is opening a whole other can of worms.
I don't think
when we're talking about, like-
audiobook really works for a comic because it is heavy.
because exactly.
Unless it was an audiobook of the script.
Yeah.
Then it'd be like reading an audiobook of a play.
Yeah, because I will say I love audiobooks as much as I don't like reading digital books. I love
I don't like
audiobooks.
audiobooks.
I wouldn't listen to
Personally.
a book that I've never read before as an audiobook though, and I don't listen to audiobooks to fulfill my desire to read.
Yeah.
Like I listen to them
Different
in the
thing.
way that I would like want to listen to a podcast or want to
Like
listen
this
to
one.
a song. You know, like it's a supplementary
Yeah.
for an audio thing for me, not to replace reading. But anyways, that's a whole other whole other.
Again, I think digital is a really, really good tool. Like
Yeah.
I keep saying that, but I think it's a really,
Yeah.
really good tool. I don't think it's inherently good or bad.
Not
for the
bashing it at
industry.
all.
No,
yeah.
of course not.
It's totally a personal factor. Like
And-
it depends on your lifestyle, your interests, what you're
Yeah.
reading in the first place.
And my
what, you know,
personal preference is to read physical
Mhm.
media, but I'd never be like, oh, you read digital only? Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It
If you
doesn't
like
make it
the
any less than.
Exactly.
It just,
If you like the comics, maybe you're not into collecting. You don't want to have a bunch, like, I have boxes of comics.
Yeah.
Because I like the physical media, I have long boxes and short boxes everywhere. So if
like,
you,
they don't. And that's the thing. Like, we don't have a huge living
Yeah.
space. Like,
Yeah.
our apartment is not that big.
there's a lot of boxes.
Some are stored elsewhere. So, I mean, if you're someone who moves around a lot, you travel a lot,
Yeah.
this, that, and the next thing, I mean,
It can be a huge
it's not
burden.
realistic for you to have
Yeah.
boxes and boxes of books lying
Yeah.
around, you know?
It totally depends on your lifestyle, what your preference is, all that kind of stuff.
For me, I would happily sacrifice my bedroom, kitchen, living room, or bathroom, or any room in my house to convert it into a library.
Maybe not the bathroom.
Okay, you know what I'm
You gotta
saying. The
poop somewhere.
point is,
Everybody poops.
yes, everybody poops.
That's the point.
Thank you for that visual.
No problem. Thanks for being on the big topic.
I'm not done.
Oh.
The point I was making is I would sacrifice my entire apartment to house my books. But not everyone would do that.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
It's just it just depends on what things you value out of the comics, what you want to get out of them. If
Yeah.
you just want a cool story, some good art, and stuff like that, digital is perfectly fine. If you want that sense of like accomplishment of finishing reading something and you don't necessarily get it from digital,
Mhm.
like I don't, or you want that kind of collector aspect of it, then maybe go physical. It both are great. I got complaints about both, and I got
both have their
Compliments about both.
downsides, both have their
Yeah.
positives, you know?
all right. Well, thanks again for being on the big topic with me.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
No problem. All right, we'll get on to what I am reading next week after. See ya.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
So let's run through the comics I'm going to be picking up next week really, really quickly. There's not too many, so it won't take long. So from Dark Horse, I'm picking up Ether, The Disappearance of Violet Bell, #2. This was the super weird sci-fi / fantasy thing they were doing. It was issue 1 was super weird but super interesting, so figure I might as well keep going and do my 3-issue rule. I always pick up the first 3 issues of something I'm somewhat interested in. So we'll see about that. Then from DC Comics, I am picking up Basket Full of Heads #1, which looks really, really cool. It's a horror kind of book on Black Label. Looks great. I'm picking up the Batman Annual number 4, Deceased number 6, and The Last God number 1. And that's it. There's no Marvel, there's no Image, nothing like that next week. Just those 5, it looks like so far. Maybe I'll spur of the moment pick something else up, but we'll have to wait and see about that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and everything like that. Don't forget to subscribe and everything like that. And I'll catch you next week. We'll see ya. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you want to see more from me, Sean Thompson, talking about comics and stuff like that. And don't forget to leave a comment down below. Thanks so much.